Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a while. It's been a while, almost a week and a half, 2 weeks almost, I guess you can say. But the fellas are back. You got the Horns Down podcast, got the Hall of Fame College Football podcast with Jason and the coach. You got Sooners 360 with Mr. Sooners 360 himself, Chris Mason. We are all here. We are back to talk about all things related to OU. But first and foremost, Jason, I would ask you how you doing, but we got to go to Chris Mason. Chris Mason, we are having to come here and look on this show. I can't speak for every other podcast. I can't speak for that. Look, we were one of the few podcasts who did not beat a dead horse over the head, okay, with this whole Jim Knowles thing. It was either it was going to happen or it wasn't. We found out some really good intel and everything and stuff from all the guys, but especially Chris Mason, who told us a lot of this stuff early on about fractured relationships there at Ohio State, Jim Knowles wanting out, different things like that were topics of interest, but just wanted to see how this played out. But
we giving all this credit to Chris Mason on some of this info? Is that
look, he said a lot of it early on. It was just like it was a whirlwind.
He missed on a lot of shit too.
I'm not saying that he didn't miss, but I'm getting to that right
now. Hey, you make bold declarations. Sometimes you have egg on your face, but at least I'm not like hemming and hawing and saying I don't know, maybe this sort of thing might happen. I was basically right, and then I was completely wrong.
Oh, this guy. Hey, shout out to Sharp, man. Sharpshooters podcast. Definitely go follow him. That guy is out there at the Senior Bowl.
He is. He's out there killing it, man.
Yeah,
what's up,
man.
B? What up, B?
You know,
that is awesome. That is awesome. But yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's a perfect place to start. You know, and I'll just give my 2 cents on this whole Jim Knowles thing. It would have been a great addition. It would have been a great PR move. It would have been a great addition to really kind of, I guess, add a little bit more structure to the secondary, if you want to say. But I will say this right here, people. I think we all have our gripes about the defense at times, meaning like, okay, we're playing too much, odd front, right? Or, hey, we're not getting a pass rush early and often, or this and that, or, hey, our corners are, what's wrong with that? Like, we're giving up big plays. We're not pressing. We're not doing this. Everybody has a particular gripe, but I think the consensus of OU fans will tell you defense wasn't the issue. It wasn't the issue the last 2 years. Last 2 years have came down to some critical, and as much as I love BV, I'll be fair, has came down to some critical in-game situations, just game management things that need to be cleaned up, have to be cleaned up, must be cleaned up this year. And also just the fact that, I mean, your offense, on one hand with Levy in his last year, your offense is electric and it can put up yards, but it also can go out there and have a 50-second 3-and-out, right? They also can go out there and have untimely 3-and-outs. Whereas with Seth Littrell and Joe John Finley, a lot was left to the imagination. You had some bright spots here and there, but you never really had any consistency or any continuity throughout the year. But regardless, though, we're not going to rehash all this stuff out, but I will say this right here. I feel really good about our defense, where we're going. It would be nice to have an actual DC name. It would be nice to have an actual linebacker coach as well. But I think all that stuff is going to get meshed out. I think Wes Goodwin is in the fold, so you're just kind of figuring out what's going to happen there. I think we all expect BV to be calling the defense next year, or to at least have a heavy imprint on this defense next year to kind of figure out what that's going to look like. But I think that even though Jim Knowles could have added to that safety room or just to that DB room as well, just kind of what he wants to do defensively, I think you could be better this year on that end. Obviously, losing Billy Bowman is a big thing. You see him tearing it up at the Senior Bowl. Shout out to him. But
shout out to Billy.
Hardy, Powers, Boganowski, You're gonna have the Hawkins kid, Tristan Haynes. You're gonna have Newcomb. You're gonna have the Guillory kid. All these different kids, Devon Jordan, guys who've been here. You're gonna have guys step up at that other corner spot. But you also got to say, if Gentry is healthy this year, I think that weeds out some things. And not to pick on him, but one thing I will say is that that you look at Kanai Walker. Kanai Walker is a physical corner, talented corner, very talented corner. But sometimes the talent does not match the technique. And sometimes he gets very sloppy with that. A lot the whole double move stuff and all the rest of that stuff. That is just technique stuff. That's just fundamentally sound, just staying down and staying with your guy. But those are things that you could fix. So I'll pass the mic now. Just want to say it would have been amazing to have grabbed Jim Knowles, but I think you're fine on that front.
Play some offense. We'll worry about the rest of it after that. You don't give them 50,000 extra freaking possessions, the defense looks better. It's as simple as that. I'm not worried about that. I think they're going to be fine. They've added nothing but talent there. It would have been. I think it would have been gravy to get. I mean, we're not going to sit here and act like we didn't want to see him come to town, but in the end, I think it would have been gravy. But I wouldn't say that it's as big a deal as a lot of people are making it out to. There's always going to be the doom and gloom types that are going to say what they're going to say, but that's all right. I think that at some point, it's time for BV to step up either way. You know what I mean? He's going to have to step up his game when it, like you said, when it comes to game management. So whether or not you have that other guy there, you got to do it. So, yeah, that was pretty good stuff. Good stuff, Stevie G. Good stuff. I'll pass it on. I think I mean, we don't have to beat that one to death either. I don't really care. I think we're good to go.
Chris Mason, if you would, hold on. JJF should be DC. I have never
talking about. It's great stuff.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Oh, well
Wow,
done.
that's
Well done.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
give you a little clap of
I found that offensive, sir.
Shout out to PG. Oh, but Chris Mason, not only can you answer that or just kind of give your thoughts about what ultimately happened with that whole Jim Knowles thing, but I mean, this is kind of a question that is going to be asked throughout the night if anybody has any information. I'm trying to see. But T Boomers, who is the front runner for DC? Who are guys that you're hearing? We keep hearing names like Nate Dreiling, however you say his name, but he's a linebacker coach. I've heard stuff about, whispers of maybe Odom or I don't know. It's just all over the place right now. You heard some other names. I just haven't heard anything definitive. So if you can add to that.
Well, I think it's a linebacker coach that they're going to hire, and there'll be some sort of dotted line defensive code DC thing. But we all know Brent's calling the defense, and he's the defensive coordinator. And how that gets explained to us when they hire a linebacker coach, I'm not exactly sure. But that's the reality of what's happening. If you can't get Jim Knowles, one of the top 5 defensive coordinators in the country, continue to have Brent Venables, one of the top 5 defensive coordinators in the country, call the defense. So I think that's the case. The name that keeps getting thrown around by everybody is the Dreiling guy, and he seems to have a pretty good background.
He's a legend in Nebraska parts for sure.
Okay, so
Kansas, Nebraska, Kansas. I think.
I know
his dad is like the winningest coach in the history of high school football in Kansas.
So he's got some connections there, which is fine. I mean, I think we're looking for a linebacker coach. We'll get to recruiting in a minute, and we need a linebacker coach named for recruiting purposes. So, I think that's the Knowles thing was, could you get an elite guy? Yeah. And he was at one point only negotiating with OU. So why not? Then obviously things changed and he wanted to negotiate with everybody. And OU was like, yeah, we're not necessarily doing that. So I think, to me, to just repeat what, Jason said, Brent's at DC, and to use the Bob phrase, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter on a certain level. We know what our defense is going to be in terms of a range of performance, right? Jim Knowles not taking the job doesn't change the fact that, we're gonna go next year as well as Mateer, Arbuckle, and being B Takis. Those nothing's changed that fact. Jim Knowles hasn't changed the fact that it's Arbuckle, Mateer, and Bill Bedenbaugh. If you could bring back Odom, if he's willing to be a linebacker coach and that fits, that would be interesting from a recruiting perspective. He's a good recruiter. So he likes the area.
Responsible for bringing Danny here, right? So
and Kenneth Murray.
Yeah.
So he's got a couple of those spots and some of those guys that he's recruited, and Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie. So I think if you can kick the can on that and find a dollar number that works and how you explain, and like I said, guys, but the DC is going to be Brent. We're going to get some explanation of who the DC is once the linebacker coach is hired, and it's really pretty meaningless. It sounds like Wes Goodwin is going to be an analyst, so basically he's going to be doing a lot of Brett's heavy lifting for some of the stuff that the grunt work of being the DC that Brent doesn't want to do, and he can trust Wes Goodwin doing that because Wes knows his system inside and out. So I think overall, this is where we're going to be at least for the next year. If you bring in somebody like the Dreiling guy, and then after a year or two, you decide, oh man, he's really got it. You can promote him. This is a little bit of, I think that plan makes sense. But it's a do or die year for Brent. Brent's going to call the defense. The only way he was not going to call the defense was if you got an elite guy, and obviously the only elite guy worth a damn, is he's at Penn State, and because apparently,
it sounds like that is kind of what stuck him, anyways. Though, if we're gonna get into that conversation, it sounds like he wanted complete autonomy, and Brent was never going to allow that.
I think he wanted to go to Philadelphia. That's where he's from. He's back in his home territory.
It's more like Harrisburg.
Well, I know where Penn State is and where Philly is. Trust me, I had to fly into Harrisburg for work at one point.
I've been to Penn State games. It's kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, and they offered him a bunch of money, and and part of it, someone said that it's been thrown around that he really wants to kind of stick it to Ohio State as well. This thing has gotten ugly. We went from Ohio State couldn't find him and didn't know why he wasn't at the parade to Ohio State asked him to not go to the parade. So according to the little woman, if that's real, what was on that Facebook post that she put out there, somebody put out there. Yeah, it obviously was. I told you guys he wanted to leave Penn State. That was clearly accurate. At least I got that part right.
Imagine beefing with your defensive coordinator after you guys just won a national championship. Regardless,
and he was the missing piece too.
Yeah, I don't know what all is true or what is not. I do think that I do believe that there were some issues in house amongst the coaches, but I will say, I think the class move, obviously. And I think, obviously the Ohio State University Buckeyes, I think they are a class program there, but I think at some point you would just say like the classy move is to let the DC at least be able to see his guys one last time, opposed to probably having to send be the best pen pal ever and say, hey, congrats on winning the championship. Sorry, I couldn't be there. They don't like me.
Well, there's no way to navigate that situation nicely. But let's just say it obviously was kind of a mess. But I think OU will probably go with the Dreiling guy, unless Odom, unless that name somehow is able to build up some momentum in the next couple of days and he's able to get in for an interview. But OU's got to have this guy in place soon not for defensive coordinator. We've got to have a linebacker coach on the road recruiting. JP Lossman is our linebacker coach on the road recruiting. He doesn't know linebacker. He doesn't know how to. It's not resonating with our linebacker recruits. We are behind You know, if you want to switch to recruiting, I love where our entire lineup is and who we've been bringing in and the offers we make. There's only one guy at linebacker I love, and he's from Ohio. So I'm not sure we're going to get him. So the linebacker position is the weakest position in recruiting right now. And if you ignore our upperclassmen, it may be as weak as tight end is overall on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to get a linebacker coach in here. We'll be on our third linebacker coach in 3 years. We got to get some stability in the position and get some guy who can start helping us land some beasts at linebacker to replace the guys we're about to lose.
And I don't want to bag on the guy. I mean, go do what you got to do. If that situation is better for you, then do what you got to do. And I'm talking about Zach Alley guys. But I would say that to me, when you see a guy like Alley, that's probably honestly the most attractive thing about him as a coach is the fact that, hey, we're getting a young, energetic, fired up guy that seems to be a pretty damn good coach from what the players are telling me. Now, I think that's going to translate on the road when he's recruiting, and we just did not see that happen. I think you need to go get somebody who is extremely connected or elite to go and get you some guys that you know what I'm saying? Like you're
no. I mean,
you're going to be in the portal for linebackers probably,
and that's not a good solution for this defense, right?
No.
New guy walks in,
does things to recruit anyway, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, doesn't know the defense, walks in, doesn't know the scheme, and we're relying on him to be a starter on defense at linebacker in this defense. We need a homegrown linebackers for Brent's defense. You know, this is not a position where we can go get a guy.
We go hire Teddy.
Well, you know, I mean, no. I would if it was 20 years ago, but Teddy. Sometimes I think Gabe and Teddy. T. Boomer's got a great question there. If we can leave that up, if we want to move to recruiting in a sec, or a good comment. I mean, Teddy. Sometimes I feel like Teddy still thinks we're facing Nebraska and a 275-pound fullback dive plays 15 times a game.
I'll ask the question that T. Boomer was kind of saying earlier. Why not James Skalski? He knows the coaching points. Why can't he? I mean, he's won a national championship with Brent Venables. In fact, didn't he win two? I mean, this kid.
So I mean, there's a young coaching staff, and then there's a young coaching staff.
I get it, but
I would at this
he's
point.
Already been 2 years in the program.
You know, if we're ignoring coaching limits and we're just kind of playing we're not really paying attention to who's doing what, and which no one else really seems to be doing. So
there is no rule about that. You can coach as much as you want from wherever.
Exactly. So from a certain perspective, yeah, I would. I mean, recognizing the fact that is he 26?
27, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So recognizing he's young,
9-year-old freaking coordinator.
Well, I'm telling you that I would be fine if they promoted Skalski. I mean, I'd be like,
I mean, it feels like
you've got Goodwin.
Connect with players. He should be able to connect with players in recruiting.
Yeah, you've got out on the road, put him out on the road, and turn him into a closer. Do a little bit of what you did with Chavis, who.
Right.
Let's be honest, was a little under. Can he recruit? Recruits talk about him all the time, Max Swearinger. So far, we've heard good things about when he's on campus. I don't know why he couldn't be a recruit. I don't know why he couldn't. Now, does he have an established recruiting resume? No, he does not. If you want that, then you got to go in a slightly different direction.
Yeah. Again, though, but you just said talking about Chavis. All he does is keep on bringing in guys that are badasses.
Well, and he was certainly underexperienced for the defensive end job when he first came in. And poor Chris is obviously dying laughing over some comments. So I'm not.
I know he stays on that. Okay, Chris, and they're always on Chavis, even on killing Chavis all the time. I don't know where they get it from, but whatever.
I did. R. Mason Thomas. All I can say is R. Mason Thomas is, You want to bash on Chavis? R. Mason Thomas is kind of the guy that says,
Look, my only thing is early and often next year, and I know that that offense plays a part in that. You know, if I may, just a little sidebar, and we can go straight to recruiting after this.
sure.
Shout out to my guy Brady Trantham. Guys, go check out Through the Keyhole podcast, all the rest of that. At the gym, we are. Oh, somebody got an alarm going off. But anyways, at the gym, we are constantly arguing about this team, about Team 131. He doesn't believe they're going to win. I have us winning nine plus games next year. I'm just gonna go out on a limb. Call me crazy, laugh at me, book it, clip it, whatever you want to do. But regardless, though, like I've talked to him, I said, hey, you and other guys are the same people who are telling me, hey, we gotta have faith or this and that. Our pass rush is gonna be all of this and all the rest of that stuff, and believe in Chavis. And I'm like, you got to take that same attitude and apply it to the team, but when we break down that conversation about the DN room, I have to say, okay, I am really critical of Chavis because I'm like, okay, it's taken forever to get a guy on one side who can just go and get the quarterback and have a really good pass rush. I think Trace Ford has been serviceable. I think Caden Woolard's second year would have been even better. But at the same time, you got to be able to play with a lead. You got to be able to have a competent offense that doesn't have your defense on the field. I think our defense was on the field way more than what we expected this year. So that's something that plays into it. If we have a competent offense and we're able to go out there and play with 14-point leads here and there, we're going to be dangerous because I think on that other side, PJ, Okoye, Marvin Jones Jr., one of those guys, you think they have to step up on that other side and they have to take that leap that everybody's hoping that they take, and just goes crazy on that side to where your pass rush is just going to be insane because you're going to be able to rotate these guys in constantly. Could be Nigel Smith, could be Taylor Wine. I don't know. But we've talked about this before, so I think that's the interesting conversation that we'll dive into. But Chris Mason, let's get into the recruiting. Obviously, we picked up a star wide receiver, I think a 4-star in the Odom kid. Could you talk about him and just talk about everything else that you have?
Yeah, so they had a big recruiting weekend, and they probably had somewhere around 15, 18 kids on campus. All of them had offers except for 2 in-state kids. They offered one of the in-state kids, DJ Ackerson from Putnam City. And then they've got one of the other in-state kids from Norman North, an offensive tackle called Daniel McMorris, who they didn't offer yet. But he certainly has interesting film where I can see an offer happening. So, I mean, you basically had a group of guys that OU has been recruiting heavily for a while. And that group of names has that group of names is Noah Best, Poulet Primus, Aljur Miles, Mason James, Caden Jones. So that's sort of a core group of guys that came back on campus. OU reestablished connections with them. You're already starting to see some predictions again for Noah Best, the big offensive guard, offensive center from Midlothian, Texas, 6'4", 290. So that was one group of guys that they had in, players that have been to OU a number of times. A lot of them were here for the spring game. A lot of them were here previously for summer camp workouts. So that's the main group. Also in that main group is KJ Ford from Duncanville, the big defensive end. We're starting to see predictions for OU from him. He's 6'4", 230, maybe a little bigger than that. He had a fantastic junior year. He also went to the Under Armour game and looked really good, and went to the Hawaiian game and looked really good as a junior. So, and for OU to break through in Duncanville would be sort of huge.
Mm-hmm.
And to get a guy that we think would be a real impact guy as well. So that's kind of one group of those players. A couple of offensive linemen, a couple of receivers, the running back they want, and obviously KJ Ford, who is the defensive end they want. I think most of those guys, Jason and Chris, I think they'll end up being Sooners. So I think that's around 7 additional players that you could see as part of this recruiting class. It would be surprise me if OU doesn't land the majority of those kids. And then the second group was really, and I'll talk about Daniel Odom in this, is, they had some top 100 national guys come in, first time visiting OU. And Daniel Odom was one of those guys. Now, he's a 4-star wide receiver from St. John Bosco, 6'2", about 190. Lots of offers, top 200 player in the nation. He has excellent film. Now, he was a new name for me when it was announced he was visiting. So obviously I was a little surprised he went ahead and verbally committed. Now, we find out now that he plays 7-on-7 ball with Jaden O'Neal. They've known each other, they're childhood friends. So this is looking like OU's elite quarterback pulling in an elite wide receiver for us from California. So that's what it looks like. But his film justifies all the offers he has. Texas wanted to look at him. Georgia wanted him. So, his offers are a who's who of college football, and he plays elite competition at St. John Bosco, and his highlight reel is excellent. So it's a big addition. We'll see where OU goes in wide receiver recruiting. I thought they were going to sign maybe 3 guys, but I think they'll probably sign 4 since they lost the guys at the end of the last year in December. They dropped a couple of the guys from the class, and they obviously lost Cortez Mills to Nebraska. So I think they'll sign 4 wide receivers, but you've got Aljor Mills, who I mentioned. You've got Mason James. Odom has already taken 1 slot, so there's 3 slots left. Another guy who visited was Jabari Brady from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He also plays 7-on-7 ball with Jaden O'Neal. I'm not sure if you guys saw the photo of him in Venable's office. The kid looks like a defensive end. He's freaking huge. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. That wouldn't actually surprise me if he isn't like 6'4", 210, 215 with how big he looks. So that's another name. He's a top 50 player in the country, top 60, depending upon who's doing the rankings. The guy I think is the number 1 target right now is this kid from Ohio called Sinceri Johnson from Cleveland. He's 6'3", 225, flies around. My best comp would be, imagine Kenneth Murray trained by Brent Venables. And what that might be. Because this kid is flying around hitting folks on his film. Plays good football in Ohio in the Cleveland area. Was on campus. OU seems to have made a big connection. OU also made a big connection with Caden Hall, safety from Florida, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's, again, a big kid. He's top 30 in the nation, if you believe on3.com. OU made a great had a great weekend, telling a lot of folks he's going to come back to OU maybe for a spring game or set up his official visit soon. Mm-hmm. Then you have Valdin Sone. I've talked about him before. He's the huge Swedish defensive tackle who's plays ball in Virginia. He's massive. He's like 6'4", 6'5", 320. Really can move for his size, and he's starting to get major buzz from the recruiting services. OU, Brent Venables and Todd Bates were in his coach's, looked like his basement maybe, hanging around with Valdin yesterday. And the other guy they've been visiting already. OU had these guys all on campus on Saturday, and they've been in home with every one of the guys I've mentioned this week. 4 OU coaches were with Sinceri Johnson on Tuesday. Wednesday, we were with Valdin Sone. I think today they were with Kamharian Johnson, the big defensive end from Alabama that they like. He's 6'5". He's bigger than Chavis, looks taller than Chavis, and Chavis was 6'5" at the NFL Combine. So this is a big guy, big kid. His film's really good. So OU basically, there's another 7 kids that OU went from nowhere with them to in play with 7 guys I consider to be high-end national recruits. And we're talking D-tackle, linebacker, defensive end, safety. All right, well, we can get to Stevie. Could you hold Stevie G's question so we can get to that next, Jason? Can you do that? Or does Chris?
I got it.
Okay, so we're talking 3 guys I think that are legitimate top 75 players in the nation: Jabbar Brady, Caden Hall, Sinceri Johnson, and then we're talking huge defensive linemen at defensive tackle and defensive end. So OU really, when you talk about that, and they're in play for all of these guys now, definitely looks like they're in play for them, and they got a verbal commitment from Daniel Odom. So that tells me that OU is doing some things right in terms of how the weekend went. So the big topic that's been floating around is, why did we offer Bo Bentley, the quarterback from Salina, Texas? Why did he get an offer? I think he just simply got an offer because Arbuckle looked at his film and said, "That's a quarterback I'd like to have play for me." You can't handcuff Arbuckle and not let him make offers that he wants to make. If that's what he wants to do, let him do that. Now, OU already has a quarterback committed. That quarterback was just at your junior day recruiting everyone and has just landed you a top 200 wide receiver and maybe close to landing you a top 60 player in the nation, and has stuck with OU and been around the Sooners and is very positive on social media about OU and pushing things out. So I think Rob Ruckle likes Bo Bentley, wants to offer him. And if for some reason Bo Bentley decides he wants to be the second quarterback in this class, then OU will, pursue and investigate that. Now, Bo Bentley just got offered by Ohio State, FSU, Alabama's probably coming, Georgia's probably coming as well. So the odds of OU keeping Jaden O'Neal and adding Bo Bentley are probably extremely low. So where does OU go here? I think you bird in hand, man. I don't want to get screwed and get nobody. So and I think you go with the guy that you've has been connected with you and is recruiting your class and connected there. I don't think he's going to pull a Sperry, but to me, if you were worried about Jaden O'Neal, why would you have him come out to your big junior day and
he moved to Oklahoma?
and why would you have him fly out to junior day, recruit everybody, and convince a buddy of his to verbal to OU? Right? Why would you do all that? Doesn't add up. Guys, when things don't add up, there's a reason why, and that's because I think Bentley, Arbuckle's like, yeah, man, I love that kid. Let's offer him, and they offered him. They're like, you never know, right? I mean, if you've got an offer here, if something does happen with Jaden down the road, where Jaden decides he doesn't want to be a Sooner, you have already offered this kid. You're not playing catch up, and maybe you flip him from wherever he goes. I mean, we saw last year, 3 5-star quarterbacks leave teams that they've been established with at the very end of recruiting last year. Deuce McKnight, for some reason, was going to be Notre Dame's next star quarterback and jumped to Auburn. Hussein Longstreet dumped A&M and went with USC. And then the number one kid for 2020, the number one kids for 2026, Jared Curtis, left UGA and now is being recruited by various schools. So recruiting isn't as fluid as you'd like it to think. If you have an offer to Bo Bentley and you have to go back to him for some reason because Jaden has decided he wants to do something different, you're not playing catch up. You're like, well, you were arrogant. It's like when OU lost Brock Vandegrift. They already had a relationship, an offer established with Caleb Williams. They didn't have to start that relationship anew. They already had built one up before. So, maybe that's the situation. You know, we'll see how it all shakes out. It's all well and good to be the number 2 Oklahoma quarterback in the class until Ohio State rolls in and offers you a massive NIL deal with their national championship trophy in tow and says you're our number 1 guy, right? But we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But that's my view on it from a recruiting perspective.
I think that, and we've said this before, and we'll say it again now. I think we as Sooner fans gotta get back. BV's been preaching competitive depth for the longest, and I think that's what they've really been trying to get to, where they have guys in that room where they're like, hey, any of these guys, opposed to just having to crown the next Jackson Arnold or Jaden O'Neal or whatever that's going to be. I think you have these guys that you feel like, okay, these guys are in line. Like Hawkins, Hawkins may have to compete after Mateer is done, but we all believe in Hawkins. We think Hawkins is going to take a leap with Arbuckle, but you want to make that room competitive, you know? When can we truly say we've had a competitive quarterback room? I think the best quarterback room we possibly had was when, you know, we had Baker and we had Collar right then and there. Now I know that was that was like pre-NIL and all the rest of that stuff and this whole portal thing, but at the end of the day, you had those 2 guys there. Then who was behind Jalen Hurts? You had Kendall Austin, or however you say his name, Austin Kendall, excuse me. But
you can just combine one guy, you know, Austin Kendall. You know, you turn Austin Kendall, Roberson, whatever the other guy who played forever was, into one quarterback.
I mean that's the whole thing. It's like you want to create that competition. You want to have that. You don't want to go out there and get added insurance. You can get that through the portal, bringing in some G5 guys or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, you want to go out there and get the best of the best. So if that means that look at what Ohio State has done. You know, I think a lot of us probably thought that Aaron Nolan would be the heir apparent to that quarterback, you know, vacancy that they have now. But he's at South Carolina. So it's either Sayin or the kid that they just the St. Clair or whatever, however he says, whatever his last name.
Tavian St. Clair, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean it's just one of those things where you're trying to get to that point where you're loaded at quarterback. And you're having to make those decisions, which you're going to have to make now with this roster size reduction.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of some Sooner fans have kind of just sort of, you know, when they saw Bentley's video. I mean, it's very Mateer-like, right? And he even kind of looks a little bit like Mateer. I mean, you know, they're from sort of, you know, Salina, sort of this. It's not quite the same, you know, high school, but it's the similar kind of Texas high school quarterback legend thing that, you know, that Baker kind of established, that Mateer sort of has an air of. And then you look at Bentley and you're like, oh, we got to have that guy. Well, you know, it's I listened to a couple of great interviews with Arbuckle where he explains he can take the talent and mold the offense, right? Jaden O'Neal has prodigious arm talent and quarterback talent.
Yes, he does.
So if
the reason that Sperry's out of here,
that's one theory, isn't it? That Sperry saw O'Neal throwing at OU summer camp and never really quite emotionally handled it moving forward past then.
Yeah, he was acting a little Jackson Arnoldish. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
Well, I think he was a little bit like, you know, it's kind of like when you're working in Tokyo and you see Godzilla stomp around in the first time, and you're kind of like, okay, what do I do now? What's your game plan after that? So again, you know, we'll see. We'll see how this thing shakes out. Both of those quarterbacks appear to be very talented. On a certain perspective, it's nice to have two guys this talented. Apparently, one who's already recruiting, wants to be the OU guy, and could have bailed at any moment in last December and said, well, I'm done with this crap. I'm going somewhere else. And all he did is go out to the Navy Combine and prove that he's either the number 1 or number 3 quarterback in the country, if you go off that kind of performance. I mean, Georgia wants him. I mean, if Jaden O'Neal leaves OU, he'll be at Ohio State, UGA,
Georgia.
or LSU, or somewhere within 2
Ole
weeks.
Miss, something like that.
Ole
Yeah.
Miss within 2 weeks. So what are we saying here? But again, the Bentley kid, yeah, I thought his film was really good. He looked really good. He's making a lot of plays off schedule.
Yeah.
Whereas O'Neal, in the footage that's out there, he's in the pocket, moving in the pocket, making plays on schedule, right? Because his arm talent just lets him fling the ball all
He's
over
a
the
player,
field.
man. He's a player. No two ways around it.
Fling the ball all over the field. So are they different quarterbacks? Yeah. But Arbuckle's just told us that he can make Cam Ward work, and he can make Mateer work, and he can make Michael Hawkins work, and they're not really the same guy. They're not the same kids. They all bring different skills to the table. But that's what Arbuckle says. Like, give me a quarterback, I'll build you an offense, and we'll kick ass. I'm paraphrasing here. That's what he said.
No doubt, man. If you watch the year that I've now seen both seasons of him at Washington State, I've even seen most of this season of him at Western Kentucky. He goes with what he has, and I mean, Cam Ward is really good. He's not the same player that Mateer is. They don't do things the same way, even kind of really.
And I do, and philosophically, I do have to wonder. How much can you run a QB in the SEC like this?
I don't think that's going to last very long. No.
So when everybody's like, "Well, we want to run him like we want our quarterback to run like Mateer," I'm not sure Mateer will make it through 12 games in the SEC doing what he did at Washington State last year.
I don't think that he's going to have to as well. If
better talent around him too.
Yeah, if the offensive line, the offensive line is able to pick up that scheme very well, which I think they can. I think it's going to be friendly to them. But if that offensive line is better, if guys are taking leaps, or if you're seeing some of these younger guys get in there as well, then and ball out, I think you should be fine, because I think you do have durable backs. I think you found something late in the season with X-Rob. I think that if you can cure the fumbling bug with Tatum, I think Tatum may be your most explosive running back. I saw, me and my uncle, we go back and forth on this. Shout out to my uncle, but we go back and forth on this about Tatum. I think Tatum was your most explosive back. I saw him make some reads and some cuts, and I was like, hey, I wish Sawchuk would do that, because that Sawchuk would just go crazy. Dude is like a burst of energy. I mean, he's your change of pace back, to be honest with you. And then with Bourne's coming back as well, if he can build off of this last season that he had, and really, 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 just build off that momentum, you have 4 durable backs that you can go out there and really get busy with. So I think that you can take that off of him, and I think you can use that QB run game, kind of the short yardage possessions where 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, different things like that. But
red zone.
Red zone. Make it kind of like a red zone package too. Yeah.
Yeah, do it like Baker did in 2017, right? I mean, he was an effective runner. He moved the chains, get his garbage, move the chains yards. But I don't know that we want – now, if he can pull it off, we'll power to him. But I don't think we want John Mateer running enough to get 800 yards on the ground in the SEC.
Here's another thing that –
I'd rather get 5 maybe.
Here's another thing that could really change that as well. And I know this is asking a lot, okay? People do not crucify me in here. But if you can get some help from the tight end position, that could help. I listened to John Mateer on the franchise. I think it was yesterday. Matter of fact, he and Kip Lewis and a couple other OU athletes were talking on the one Oklahoma panel or whatnot, and he talked about how he feels that they have a good tight end room, and they like using the tight end in this Arbuckle system, especially in the red zone when you got those bigger guys, because he's like, hey, those bigger, taller guys, you can kind of throw it to certain areas, all the rest of that stuff. Obviously, it's just kind of coach talk, coach speak, just regular ball talk. But if that's something that you can see more of this year, whether that is, the Huggins kid or any of those kids, Devon Mitchell preferably, right? Caden Helms, if you can get some type of activity from your tight end room, that would lessen the need to have to do that as well, because then you can have those taller receivers. If Jaden Gibson is back healthy and ready to truly go. If Isaiah, I mean, if Ivan Carrion, if he could build off of this
we
year,
saw signs in the Navy game that he could be a third down, move the chains guy.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Those are guys that you call stuff that makes sense. Last year I think we were all calling for, hey, Joe John, hey, Seth Luttrell. We're not asking you to go out there and do something elaborate. Put if in a perfect world, Nick Anderson is healthy, and then Jaden Gibson is healthy. Put those guys opposite of each other, Lebby, Luttrell, Joe John, whoever. Put those guys opposite of each other. Run phase with those guys. Get the matchups that you want, and just go from there. It's simple ball. And I think that's something that when you watch, now that we have material, I think now you can get away from just kind of watching him and keeping eyes on him and those highlights. I think now you can actually break down the offense and see, hey, they want to move the ball down the field, but they're smart about it and they build upon stuff. He's not stubborn trying to go back to the same play and find that same play. He's actually building off of that play he's giving you that same look, but he's building off of it to eventually get to that cash play. So that's something that I'm really excited about, but I think that's something that can help us as well, as good offensive, a good O-line play mixed in with I'm just need a heartbeat from the tight end room. But speaking of O-line, Chris Mason, what's going on with the 2026 recruiting? I know we talked a whole bunch about this earlier this year and last year and all the rest of this stuff, but what's up with this 2026 offensive line class?
Well, they've already got one verbal in Will Conroy, the offensive guard from the Cleveland area, who's now at IMG, and he's a really good player. Noah Best is the Midlothian guy I talked about, who's already being forecasted to OU. Polite Primus is an offensive guard from Midland, Texas. He's 6'5", 320, 330, and he doesn't look heavy somehow. The guy who did not arrive, who was not at the OU weekend event, was Toa Katoa, the 6'4", 360-pound offensive guard from Euless Trinity. OU coaches were all in his living room. He looks like OU's definitely in that battle. So Chris and Jason, it looks like OU's got good guard guys identified, and probably will sign 4 of them. The problem is it's a weak tackle class this year nationally. Last year, the Fasusi class, we had 9 offensive tackles who got a 5-star rating nationally. And Fasusi's pretty much the number 1 tackle after they did their re-rankings recently in the nation. Number 7 player in the nation, number 1 tackle in the nation. So OU got the right guy because Ty Haywood's not a 5-star any longer. Babalola was right behind him, but we only didn't get Babalola because we got Fasusi. We would have gotten Babalola otherwise. So tackle's the problem. Nationally, it's kind of weak at tackle, but they've got a guy in Florida they really like called Chancellor Barkley. He's 6'4", 295. He already has his official visit set up. The real battle is the left tackle from Mansfield, Texas, Felix Ojo. Texas badly needs him because they missed. There's 9 offensive 5-star offensive tackles last year. Texas didn't get one of them. 3 in-state. Texas didn't get any of them. So they're heavily pitching Felix Ojo. Wilt Fong's already fonged him to Texas. I think this is a longer recruiting battle that will go the distance. Felix is his family is originally from Nigeria, just like Michael Fasusi. They're friendly. They know each other. But Texas will be selling the whole, well, OU got Foji and Fasusi. You can't play there for 3 years. You need to come to Austin. And we're also the national, we're also like a playoff team. They're not. So that's Texas's pitch. It's a very easy one. But OU was the first to offer Felix. Felix camped at OU last summer and has been to OU like 9 times. So Bill's done all he can there. But they're offering other tackles around the nation. They're finding some guys. There's a guy in Tampa they like called Cannon Pickett that a lot of other people are looking at. They just offered a guy from Illinois who's got his name is like Mapenga. I think they just offered him. So they're finding other targets. And again, they got this Norman North guy who on film he's super aggressive. He's lean, but he's very physical. When I look at his film, I'm like, you stick him in the OU weight room, he'll be 6'6", 310 pounds in 2 years. And Bill, I mean, he's nasty. He likes beating people up. I'm like, Bill could fix the technique issues with this guy. And now we actually have some depth. We could sign a guy who we think might be 2 years away, right? Because we've got Baklenko, Foji, Fasusi, and Autry Dent. So you've got 4 young tackles in the system, as well as Howland, who's still technically an underclassman. So I think that's the big question mark. So the finding 2 tackles in this class will be difficult in the O-line. I think the interior guys, they've got the guys they want. I'll be very shocked if they don't get 3 or maybe 3 out of the 4 guys I mentioned, and maybe all 4. Katoa, Primus, Best, and Conroy. So 2 guys who can be centers, offensive guards, and 2 huge poly offensive guards to go with Darius Afalava, who looked really good in the Hawaiian game recently, was getting raves. So that's where you are on tackle. Again, the question marks are cornerback a little bit, although Jay Valai is making some good offers, and OU might flip A&M verbal Ryan Gilbert, who's from the Mesquite area. Mm-hmm. Safety, again, Brandon Hall's got good guys. Defensive end, Chavis has got guys going. Defensive tackle, Bates has got guys going. Joe John Finley offered another tight end from Anaheim Servite in California. So it looks like I'm going to go 0 for 2 in my latter half predictions. Joe John Finley is going to be the OU tight end coach past February 1st. So I don't know why, can't explain it, but just move on and accept it, guys. He's making offers and going out recruiting. I know, Flood, Benji, you're right. Flood really wants Katoa, but I think OU has a closer relationship there, longer relationship. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a fight. Texas wants Katoa and Ojo. So does OU. We're gonna go to the mattresses with Texas on these 2 guys, unless we get some other players, some other offensive linemen from outside the region, go OU's way or go Texas's way maybe. But it's really linebacker that's the problem mark right now. They don't have any verbals. Sinceri Johnson's the only elite guy I think OU has a shot at, and they just started getting involved with him. So they need to get linebacker recruiting ramped up. We need numbers. We need 2 legit Mike-type linebackers in this class. The DJ Ackerson kid from Oklahoma City they just offered, he could be a linebacker, but he's more of a Will Cheetah guy. Mm-hmm. They've offered some other guys that look like Will linebackers that could be good Will linebackers. Braden Rouse from Georgia's one, but they need at least 1, ideally 2 Mike guys that can replace Kobe McKenzie, guys that can be, a Mike linebacker for us. And that's the one recruiting problem area. So, guys, I hate to jump off, but I've got some other commitments tonight. So I'll catch you all later.
All right, sir. We will see you.
Mr. Mason.
Thanks.
So
let's have this conversation.
So what?
Let's have this conversation in here. The quarterback conversation.
Oh, what are you talking about?
The idea that you just want to go year to year to year to year on nothing but transfer quarterbacks. I think you get away with it to some extent, but you have to be completely locked in everywhere else for it to end up working out. Because
we tried to get it to work out that one year, and then we ended up with Davis Bevel playing in the
right.
in the Red River game, a very important game. So
people forget about this stuff. And it's easy to point at this one year in the playoff whenever you had a bunch of guys that were, it worked out that way. I think it was a little more about not Will Howard as much, but maybe Jeremiah Smith and Mbuka and the 2-headed monster at running back that they had there too.
I mean, you spent $20 million on your roster. I expect that. And then with Notre Dame,
ready to go.
Notre Dame really they got hot. They got hot at the right time, and they caught some lucky breaks. I think they still win the game if Carson Beck is there, because I think Carson Beck was trending as he was getting better with some of the
Throughout the
decision making, but it still was really sloppy. And so you were waiting on those games. You know, you kind of waited on Texas, honestly, to take advantage of it for the most part, which they did in that championship game, the SEC championship game, but couldn't really capitalize down the stretch. So, you know, it just, you know, Notre Dame really, they just caught some really good breaks, but they beat some pretty good teams as well. So you can't take that away from them. As well. So I mean, they deserve to be in the national championship game. I will not sit here and say they didn't, but yeah.
No, I mean, well, hey, Notre Dame did their thing on defense and running the football. I mean, that was the whole thing with them. As good as Riley Leonard was running the ball, he was good running the ball. Their receivers and stuff didn't step up yet. Oh, they're on you now here. Look at you. The example was that you didn't have enough dudes in the room because of what it got left like. But, you know, that was all BV's fault, I hear.
Mm-hmm.
I hear it was all BV's fault they went 6-7 that year.
I mean, to be honest with you, that's one decision I think if he had back, he would. I think he should have. He would have hit the portal way harder than what he did instead of
promising the job to BV or to DG.
Not that. It's just the fact that I'm talking about just from as a whole. I mean, defensively and everything. I think he could have cleaned house a little bit more than what he did to kind of at least get us to a point where he thought that we had the guys as opposed to waiting till year 2. You know.
Yeah. Sam Hartman. They went 9-4 last year with Sam Hartman.
Man, Sam Hartman started that year. I mean, he was amazing.
There were times that he wasn't good, though.
And all that. It was wild.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that I think it's a. I don't mind doing it. I don't mind getting it. If you've got the rest of your team is rock and rolling and ready to go like that, yeah, go get somebody to win now, because you know the window could close at any point. But if you don't have somebody ready to go, and, you know, somebody said we'd be in a lot of trouble if you didn't have material. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I would tell you you'd be in a damn lot of trouble if you don't have Hawkins still if material goes down.
Just like, my whole situation is my whole thing is that it has to make plenty of sense as well, because I think on one hand you want to go and get and I'm just going to reserve this right now for holding space. You want to go get those Cam Ward, John Mateer type guys. Those are the guys you want to go get. Those high risk. I mean, those high risk, high reward guys. But on the other hand, yes, you can go get a Stetson Bennett. You can go get a Will Howard or Riley Leonard. But you have to understand, Will Howard going there to Ohio State didn't make the most sense until you were like, I keep forgetting.
He didn't have to do anything but not turn the football over.
Well, not only that, but listen to my point. My point is that Chip Kelly's there. So Chip Kelly is going to be able to figure out kind of the stuff that you're talking about. You and Chris Mason were talking about with Arbuckle, just saying, hey, give me a good quarterback and I can build this offense around him to make it go. That's Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly was going to figure out a way with all those weapons to get you. And to be honest with you, he is more than serviceable when he has time and when he's comfortable. Whenever he starts getting hit, he starts getting happy feet. Whenever he gets sloppy with his technique, that's whenever Will Howard tends to struggle. But Will Howard has been
up and down for his whole career. He had moments at K-State too. And when he's got time, he can throw. He's got a good deep ball for sure. He made a throw against Tennessee where I was like, damn.
He made a throw against Texas and I was like, damn. It was one. Is that one to Cornell Tate that really just kind of sucked the momentum out or the life out of the
championship game to end the shit was pretty ballsy throw. First of all, that they even called it.
Yeah.
But he stepped up and rocketed that ball. That was a hell of a throw.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where the transfer quarterback, it can work. And we've seen it work, with Lincoln and all the rest of that stuff. But there has to be a little bit of a perfect storm that comes with that as well, as far as having the offense into place and a great quarterback coach that can actually teach the guy to really get either A, get that guy to reach his true potential, or B, fix those mechanics that have kept him from being able to reach to stop plateauing, so to say. So I mean, that's the whole thing with the transfer quarterbacks. We've seen it work. Hell, be honest with you, look at where South Carolina is at. Spencer Rattler was he probably goes down as Lenore Sellers could have a lot to say about that, but Spencer Rattler may be the best quarterback ever to go play for South Carolina, right?
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Just those 2 years.
Far
And those 2 years were
like
the greatest, but what
yeah.
he meant to that program and what he did for that program, it's.
I mean, he won a couple of games here and there, but it's
not. I'm just saying. I mean,
really contending.
You look at just kind of the numbers and all the rest of that stuff. I mean, it's the best quarterback play they've really ever had. So
they haven't had anybody that could throw it like that for sure.
They had one kid, but that when Steve Spurrier, when he had that guy,
with the mullet.
Yeah, he had Garcia, Steven Garcia. I think that was his name. He had a lot of off the field issues, and that was a problem. I don't
think he was better than Spencer throwing it. Though.
Oh yeah, no, say that.
He
was nowhere near that. But I'm just saying that was probably the most notable quarterback that you could point to.
Sure.
For them, yeah.
Sure. What do you think? Hey, so what do you think about this game? The first game, SEC coming back to Norman. Do you think he'll even be starting? You think Jackson will be starting?
I don't know, man. You see Deuce Knight, you see Jackson Norwell. They went and got another kid from the portal. You're just like, man, that is a loaded room. And
I hate these rankings where they got them and Illinois in the damn top 10 and South Carolina. What are you shitting me? I like Lenore Sellers as much as the next guy. I don't believe in Beamer for shit.
I don't either. I think Beamer has a chance to go and make some noise next year. Will he? I don't know. Will they be
that big game? Never does.
Yeah, you just, are they going to be the team that goes out there and struggles against Vautech to start the season and struggle and then finally drop maybe 2 or 3 games they have no business doing and then finally find that juice, or are they going to be that team that actually takes that step? So I think that's kind of where you're at with that with him. What I was going to say, since we just kind of just randomly talking about some stuff, I keep getting all these emails. I keep getting all these tweets and all the rest of this stuff. OSU, why do y'all keep – OSU is telling all of their fans and their supporters that they need $20 million. They need $20+ million to stay relevant in college football.
Stay relevant? When the hell have they been relevant?
I'm just telling you, this is shit going on. I said, damn. I said, somebody get the beggars.
Call your team
around rapping.
That's what they are. Trash.
Trash. Come on, man. It's Okie light. Okie ultra light. They went over in the Big 12 with no Oklahoma and no Texas in the league.
Where is I'm glad you said Texas. Where is Ben G? Ben G, come to the front of the class, please. We need to have a conversation. I don't understand. Now, I get it. Y'all are hyped about Arch Manning, deservingly so. Do what you want to do. I am not going to knock the kid. However, to put him in the top 10 quarterbacks, and we've only had a sample size of him going out there and not necessarily having the greatest days against some of those. Well, I don't know who the hell he was playing, but it was nobody's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
he played Mississippi State was the best team.
I think we need to pump the brakes until we see a full sample size. That's just me, though. I don't know. So, Jason, I mean, are we crowning Texas? I mean, you've seen on 3.
Jason's not.
They can't get off their knees. Have you seen the rankings and everything? Or are you as optimistic as they are about this new Texas team? Because
I'm glad you asked. We had a show about this yesterday morning about this. As a matter of fact, the top 5 in the country. I didn't have him in my top 5. I think he's probably top 10. I don't know about top 5. Look, I think he has talent. I also think he's going to have a new offensive line, and we'll see. Arch has shown that he's great at running the bulldozer. Attaboy. Attaboy, Ryman. Yeah, but you guys can think what you think. I don't know. We'll see about it, man. I think you have to show up and like do this shit before anybody's going to believe in it. Where's this? I mean, what's he done? We'll see. Yeah. Oh, yes. You got the cupcake schedule, the schedule. Yes. Media bias plus blah, blah, blah.
And call your team trash. Because that's what they are. Trash.
Even with that JV schedule, man, y'all ain't going to do it next year. Come on. Come on. I don't know, man. I think that we're going to find out. But they've lost an awful lot of talent, Chris, for the last 2 years. To the draft, leaving the team. They're doing pretty well. I think that where they've done very well, obviously their offensive line has been very good. And I know these guys that they're got coming in have still been on the team. They're not just going in trying to fill it up with a bunch of guys from FCS offensive lines or anything like that. I'll give them that. They've done really good in the receiver department, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Sark is going to have a friendly offense, and he's going to build it around Arch. I mean, I think the same question that we were saying that we had for excuse me. I think the same question that you and Chris Mason posed in saying, "Hey, how much can you actually run John Mateer this year?" I think that's the same question that you asked.
Yeah,
Sark and Texas fans.
Swamp. See how much Swamp early on, or at Ohio State.
Yeah, but I think you're asking that question a lot as well as Sark and Texas fans. Like, how much do you expect Arch to run? Because the thing is that I think he's more durable than he can be more durable than Quinn. And I'm hopeful that he's sliding more than what Quinn would. Because I know Steven and Nick would always say, "Oh, he's not leaving the pocket. He's not doing." I'm like, that dude leaves the pocket and he gets popped. And when he leaves the pocket, Quinn has a tendency as a 50-50 ball. You don't know if it's going to be a pick or if it's going to be a first down play, whether it's a completion or he's trying to pick it up with his legs. So, with that being said, I think Arch is going to have that dual threat capability. I don't think that he's going to
actually has some courage in him. Yeah, Quinn is scared shitless.
But that's the thing. I think that Arch is going to be a dual threat. He's going to be presented as a dual threat quarterback in that offense, which is great. And I think that's something that a lot of Texas fans are excited about because they feel like that's been something that's been missing just a tad bit from that offense to help with the explosion is that +1 runner with your quarterback. But thing is that we have to see just how durable is he, and then 2, does he slide? Does he actually try to protect himself? And then 3, how much is it used? Because I think Sark would rather have his bell cow backs, which you're hopeful if you're a Texas fan that Baxter and all those kids are back, the Gibson kid, all the rest of them. You're hopeful that everybody is back.
Have we seen Sark with like a running quarterback at all?
You said what?
Have we seen Sark with a running quarterback?
I don't think we've truly seen him with a running quarterback. I don't think we have.
I don't think he's in love with it. I don't think that's what he wants.
I don't think he doesn't have to be in love with it. He just needs somebody who can run his offense, especially have that RPO game going because he's going to have the skill guys. Yeah, he's going to have the skill guys and he's going to have the gadget guys. I think that that's going to be the interesting pieces to see what they do in the portal this year. But I mean, we'll get to see Texas early because they have to go to Ohio State first game next season. So just like we're not going to be able to hide anything during that Michigan game, the second game of the season, the first game of the season, not going to be able to hide anything either. So we'll get to see the expose.
Yeah, Sharon will have them ready for sure. Well, you're going to find out. Yeah, you're going to find out about the offense right away. I think in the end, the reason when we were talking about obviously starting it off, you had to pretty much talk a little bit about what happened with the Knowles situation, but I'll kind of back up what you were saying. It's kind of the same stuff we've been saying for the last 2 weeks. It's like, okay, if their defense is similar to last year and they play a little bit of offense, they're gonna be fine.
Mhm.
It's not about this defense. I don't give a shit who calls the plays for this year. Now, do you want to get somebody that can recruit very well? Whatever. I get it. But right now, they're in good shape.
You want BV to succeed, let BV go out fighting, give him a fighting chance. Biggest thing to me as well, going back to what I was talking to Brady about, Brady, he kind of was like, oh, well, Eli Bowen is really good, but he can't track the ball. He can't do this. It's like, man, look, you're talking about a guy that he's leg for leg, foot for foot, speed for speed. He's with some of these dominant guys. He's running with these guys. Are you asking him now to, hey, we need breakups, we need pass breakups, we need you to complete the play, right? Keep that wide receiver from catching the ball. Yes, I think you're asking him to be better at the point of attack whenever at those points, whenever they're trying to drop that ball in the bucket. But at the end of the day, thing is, like I said, he's a true freshman, bro. Like, what are we talking about?
It's true.
Yeah, y'all want me to give grace to Chavis? Well, okay, give grace to this kid who's a true freshman. Like, we got a true freshman, our best corner, who we think is our best corner. Our best corner is injured.
Gentry.
Des Malone was injured all year. Didn't really get to see what he could have truly have been in this defense. Early on he looked really good. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Early on he looked really good. So at the end of the day, I think that you trust these guys, and I think one thing that's gonna have to be better that will help is if RSJ can take that step mentally up here, and then two, if we get more production out of Peyton Bowen, which I think Peyton Bowen was showing next year that he's being molded into that Billy Bowman role. But I think RSJ is going to take that over for now. But
I got a question for you on that.
Go ahead.
If Gentry's not healthy, because I don't know how you could assume that he would be at this point, right? Do you not? I mean, I get it that we've got some young talent. I think that, chances are one of these young guys, whether it's, Newcomb or maybe you get something out of Jacoby or whatever. Why not put Peyton at corner on the other side?
I like Peyton where he's at. I think if I put Peyton anywhere closer to that end, it would be kind of at that cheetah,
bro.
Huh?
He's got coverage skills, though.
I know he's got coverage skills, but I like him at safety. I think he could be a ball hawk there. I think you got corners. I think you have corners. I think you have guys on campus, the Tristan Haynes, all the rest of that stuff. I think you have guys for that position. I think where you're at now, with
Isn't Hawkins more of a corner, or is he a safety too? More of a safety.
Talking about Malik Hawkins?
Yeah, Malik.
I hear corner. I hear corner all day. I mean, we will see. You could put him at corner. I think that would be something that you could have. I think those are special. Those are packages and stuff. And that's something as well. Like,
I feel like you just want him to be on the field more than what we've seen him always being on the field. Right.
I mean,
and I don't think that you want to keep the young guys. I don't think you want Powers or Boganowski or even Hardy to not play.
But here's the thing here's the thing. Okay. First off, kid was injured freshman year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stellar freshman year. And you saw the way that he was playing, just like Billy, similar to Billy. You're like, hey, the building blocks are there. Second year, a little bit of injuries, stuff like that here and there. But for the most part, he was out there. He was playing. You saw him communicate. You saw him do what he needed to do. Hardy is going to play. Boganowski, those kids are going to play. I think you're looking at, honestly, in my opinion, if I'm just going out on a limb right now, I think your cheetah is obviously Dolby, if healthy. I think 1A to that will be Reggie Powers. And I think number two on that list would be Kendall Daniels in the specific situations, simply because when we go to the against those teams who want to come out there with bigger formations and all the rest of that stuff and are trying to power, you could put that kid. I think once you get him in there with Smitty, get him in there and get him all situated how you want him, I think that's going to be a kid that I think that Dasan McCullough is a more talented player overall than Kendall Daniels, but I think Kendall Daniels presents a unique opportunity because on wheel routes and all those little things that Dasan McCullough would get beat on, he's not going to get beat on per se.
He's a little bit more athletic version of like RSJ, right? That's what I think Kendall is. He gets to the back. He can get in the backfield. He's really good in coverage. I think RSJ is really good getting in the backfield. I don't love him in coverage situations.
No, and that's the biggest thing. That's the reason why I say up here, RSJ is going to have to take that next step because there are a couple of blown assignments that he had, and he's going to be the anchor, mostly the anchor of that, DB room. So that's what I'm saying. I think here's the thing: is that Peyton is a lot like Billy, where they're just really instinctual. Like they're great off of instincts. So I wouldn't take him and put him at corner and tell him, hey, go do all that, which is great. Put him closer to the ball. I'm putting him like if you're running dime packages and stuff like that, then yeah, you could do that because you're going to have more DBs on the field, right? Mm-hmm. But him and his brother, that's one side of the ball that I would say I'm putting both of those guys on the same side and just going off of that. That's going to be a crazy pairing right there. What you have to do is just shore up on that back end, especially in those zone coverages, that RSJ is not creeping up or not, got his eyes in the backfield too much. But that other corner is going to be the thing. I mean, I think right now,
if Gentry's healthy, man, everything could come together.
You just said the key word. That's the thing. A lot of this stuff really depends on health. And I'm not just talking about defensive side of the ball, offensive side of the ball as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of this is really dependent upon health. We have to have guys healthy this year. We cannot go into this year like we did last year with the ifs, ands. As much as I wanted to see Nick Anderson and a lot of those guys, Andrell Anthony and a lot of those guys be successful, just was not going to work out. I mean, that's the whole thing. You got to be able to play. We got to be able to count on you, and that's the whole thing, and it's unfortunate because it's kind of out of their control. I mean, you can't control injuries and stuff. They're going to happen. They're a part of the game. But at the end of the day, you got health. Health is going to be everything.
Absolutely. But I also think the offensive line, it's not as bad as you might think. It's certainly not like last year where they're hopefully that they're not so banged up that you've got 15,000 different combinations. But I think, hey, Isaiah Autry-Dent over 320 now, 6'7". He's going to come in and make it to where you don't have to play these freshmen right away. I think that between him and Howland and the guys that you have coming back, I think the last two classes prior to this season have been good. They just haven't. It's time for them to take that step forward, though. Now,
I think that you will. I think at the end of the day, really, Fasusi may be the one. I think you could.
He may find himself like right tackle. I like Darius Afalava a lot.
You could see Afalava, but at the same time,
EPL is going to be right there in the mix there too.
Well, I mean, you say that, but here's the thing: is that I think EPL should be your starter, but can Nwewu actually take a step? Nwewu was really disappointing this year because there was no push. There was never really any push from him, and so to me, to get the best, I think Troy Everett is I think your clear starter at center.
Yeah.
And
he's the only one that got it, isn't he? He's the only one true center that they have, isn't he?
No, I mean they have centers. They got the Hollenbeck kid, and then they you have other kids that you could put there at center to really kind of give you that athletic look. I mean, I think guard play has to be better. I mean, you're looking at Ozada and saying, okay, he should be able to take that other side. You're looking at Howland. Howland is injured right now. But I mean, I think you're looking at the Stanford kid coming in. I don't think he's a biggest project as some people are projecting him to be. I think he could be ready to play. Obviously the Western Carolina kid, he's going to come in here and he should be able to take one of those tackle spots as well. So I mean, the thing is, the offensive line is
I just
due
don't want
for
you
a
to just
really
have
good
to
year.
rush a guy like, especially like a guy like, you know,
I'm
I think
not really
Fitzgerald might be
I'm not
ready.
really
He could be
focused
ready,
on
but
the.
he may not be ready either. I don't think
Well,
that Phil
I'm just gonna
Rito
be
ain't gonna
honest with you,
play
Jason.
nobody
Like
until they are.
I'm not even gonna talk about the freshmen simply because, like I said, I think Fasusi's the only one out of all of them that could potentially play. But with the guys that you brought in, I don't think that you're rushing them any of the freshmen out there. I think what you're doing, you're trying to bet the bank on the competition is really going to come between some of the guys that we've named, the Isaiah Autry Dents, like you said,
Yeah.
EPL. But you're looking at Ozida, you're looking at
Logan.
What's his name? Waywu. But you gotta remember Jake Taylor, Jake Sexton, those guys are going to be back as well. So your offensive line, you're bringing back guys that know this offense or who are going to know this offense, who have played, who are seasoned. So the thing is that you actually have depth and competition there. So I don't think you have to rush any of those guys out there unless it's just a complete cluster. But biggest thing is that I think
you can't afford to have that either. You can't afford to have that either. A complete cluster like that.
Tackle has to be better, but the biggest thing to me is that we need some nasty guard play. We haven't got nasty guard play in a while. It's been a while. When you were running out there with I can't remember Rain. Raim's biggest issue out there wasn't necessarily that he wasn't technically sound or whatever. It was two things. It was one, strength, and then two, you never surrounded him with big hog mollies that like to fight and get dirty there. You had Matwire, who was solid at best, wasn't a physical hog molly out there trying to really put people away. Like what you see from EPL, and you see how EPL is ferocious and wants to get in there and get nasty. Didn't see that, right? So guard play to me is going to be something that's going to be big, especially if we're running, this GT counter and building off of those plays and stuff like that. Because that inside game, that's when Lincoln Riley was at his best, is whenever he had guys that wanted to get nasty on the inside.
Yeah.
Because for the last couple of years, if you haven't noticed, people, inside run game, we talk about zone, we talk about all the rest of this stuff, but it's really just inside run, trying to get that matchup on that either that smaller DB or that linebacker at that second level, creating those one-on-ones.
Yeah.
That has been the run scheme for the longest for OU. And we have not been successful at that because we don't get a push on the inside. It hasn't really necessarily been the tackle play. We were successful running off of the tackles this past season. It's been the inside game that has been a struggle because we don't get a push. That was part of the reason why against Navy, we couldn't get a push on the inside. We're not moving guys.
These guys are talking crazy.
Right.
Mark Henry's son, I guess, did some kind of tryout with Bates. I actually talked to him the whole third quarter at Red River. He's a cool ass kid. He said that he was thinking about trying out. He wanted to walk on, but he's definitely killing it at wrestling. But which he should, he's probably something else, right?
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
But no, I'm optimistic about this year, man. I think everything right now, and we're gonna get more in depth, and we'll be back, weekly and everything and stuff, people. But I think for me, everything right now is just building towards spring ball. Got 5 weeks until spring ball starts. So
quick, huh?
Yeah, that is the most important thing right now. Is just getting there, and I'm really, really excited for this spring game just to get out there and see. I know we're not gonna see ones against twos and all the rest of that stuff. Everybody's going to be split up, but it will be interesting to watch that offensive line and say, hey, he's getting a push. He's actually getting a push, and really point those guys out. And then two, I think it'd be nice to just see some of the skill players that we've brought in, that we're bringing back, and just kind of see the maturation process that they're undergoing. I don't think we're going to see anything amazing from the offense, but I do expect them to, be able to move the ball and just show us at least the bare principles of this Arbuckle experience that we're going to have. So I'm excited about it, man. I think Team 131 is going to be really good defensively. And here's the thing, defensively, if you're able to if you're able to play with leads and you're able to like really just pin your ears back and get after the quarterback, I think that really that masks some of the problems we had last year. I really do. I think if you're able to, I mean, in that Tennessee game, it's a game wore on, you know, do I think that I think it's 60-40. I think 60% was, hey, we got the game in hand. Let's slow it down and let's go from there. So I give that to Heupel. But I think the other 40% was, hey, our quarterback's getting his ass kicked. And we're giving the ball. Yeah.
It wasn't that. Don't be going with that damn Tennessee bullshit.
I think it was
that shit.
Yeah, it kind of just yo-yoed back and forth because you were able to get after them, and when you were,
they were whooping his ass. They were whipping his ass.
He wasn't throwing it over your head and stuff like that for those bums. It was whenever you had to sit back and say, hey, we got to figure out what's going on offensively. So we're gonna play, you know, base 3-4 and run zone and different things like that. They were just like, we're not doing what what are our actual characteristics. So that's gonna be something that's interesting, man. But I think most people, you know, for me, the thing that I took from the Navy game, I hate that game. I hate the way it ended, all the rest of that stuff. But biggest thing I took from that game was that was the most complete play from Michael Hawkins I had seen. Right? Not play wise, meaning running the plays, because we all know who was calling the plays.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
But just being able to be in the pocket, trying to go through progressions, trying to do what a normal quarterback would do.
It felt like they had a script. It felt like they had a script. Did you feel like that's what happened? They ran out of plays and then it went to shit.
Shit, I wouldn't call that a script, you know. I look at Sark and say, hey, Sark's script can be
Sark script.
Sark's script can go from 15 plays to 40 in a minute, bro. I promise you. He'll run the same 15 plays he just ran if he thinks he could get away with it. But I don't know what JJF did. JJF started doing stuff that was like, hey, why are we running stuff that we ran against Bama against them? Like, just run the ball the regular way. Like you're trying to, you know, run special stuff that they've been keying up for the whole time. I don't know, man. JJF is quite the anomaly. So I'm glad that experience is over. You know, I watched the Alabama game back, and I just thought to myself, like,
that wasn't him though. I don't think that was JJF calling that shit though.
I don't either.
That's not what they ran all damn year. Come on, dog. That was Kevin Johns. And my question is, why don't you just stick with that when you go the next week to Baton Rouge? Why? I mean, until they stop it. Yo, this is not the same team we're playing. Who gives a shit? Let's find out.
Yeah. I mean, they ran it a little bit. They started going back to it. It still blows my mind that we had like what a 17-10, 17-14 lead at one point, and we just totally offensively we just
Stephen G says again, just make him the DC. That was solid. That was a solid comment there.
You got any parting shots before we get up out of here?
Fuck Texas. No, I don't. I think it's going to be a wild off season. I think it's going to be a wild off season. You're going to continue to have as much negativity as possible. I think you got to try to do your best if you're an Oklahoma fan to not just listen to all that negativity and try to realize that it isn't that far away from being the other way turned around. It's really not.
Here is my hot take, and here is my here's my hot take, and here is my parting shot.
Okay.
People, I truly believe that regardless of how this season goes, I believe that BV has 2 years left. It may not be a hot take to some. That's a hot take. It's just a hot take to a few.
I've been saying it every week on the show with me.
I think he has 2 years left. I think that I think Art Buckle could get you to a place where people will believe, and that small chorus would actually outweigh probably the loudest people in the room, which will be us, right? So I think BV's here for about 2 years. That's just my thoughts. So
Shit, Eric, you had me thinking I was seeing shit. I thought you were saying 6'5". I didn't think he was that big. Okay. Yeah, I don't really see him. I don't know about being on the D line, but you never know. He's a strong kid, and you know what? Who cares? He's a badass athlete. He's definitely a stud athlete. Yeah, listen, I agree with you. I think the more I've thought, I was saying before that I definitely believe that if Knowles would have gotten the job, they weren't going to do that for a 1-year deal. There's no way they were going to pay him what they were going to pay him to come in and that coach in waiting theory was a stupid theory, I thought. Stupid theory. That's not what you're hiring that guy for. He couldn't win at Cornell against other crappy teams. You know what I mean? And they gave him a lot of time to win there. He's like 35 and 45 or something like that. I mean, he had a lot of games. So, again, I don't think that that's what you're looking for from this guy. I think that you were looking for a situation where you were trying to ease the transition a little more for Venables. In the end, I don't think that Venables maybe he does get those 2 years. And here's probably why. If not for nothing else, but people talk about all this money situation. Well, we're not spending this money. We're not spending that money. Well, if we're not spending this money and that money on players and this and that, the things that you feel like that they should be spending it on, what the hell makes you think they're going to pay him $35 million to walk away? I don't see that. And that whoever brought up Urban Meyer, what are we, 2012? Are you guys serious? Urban Meyer? Shit, no. Those years are over, man. I think if you go from here, you go young again. Super young.
Guys, I'll say this as well on a serious note. Make sure you're loving on each other, man, every day. Make sure that you are checking in on your friends and you're making sure that everybody is good, man, because you just never know these days. As soon as I get off of this, I need to go and call Jance and make sure that he's fine. I haven't heard from Jance in a while. His Bills got beat. If you guys haven't heard by Patrick Mahomes and the refs, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for the Bills to get over the hump. I haven't seen him in a Bills Mafia Twitter space in a while. I need to go check on Jets. It's people. It's dark. It's dark around here.
Yeah. I thought you were going on into a soft moment there for a minute. I was like, whoa, where the hell did this come from?
You gotta check on your peoples, man, and make sure
check on your people for sure. Hey, for real, you should check on your people. You never know what people are going through. You know what I'm saying? You never know what somebody might be going through.
Just see this Jets gonna cuss me out. That's what's going on, brothers. All right, people. We'll be back. We'll be back next week with Chris Mason, me, and Jason. So we.